You guys, got another video here for you on how to optimize Windows 10 1903. If you've upgraded or updated to the latest version of 1903, then this video is for you. Now obviously these are not mandatory settings that you have to change, but if you wish to de-bloat or turn off any sort of spying features, then this video is for you. But if you're happy as it is by default, then leave it well alone and skip this video altogether. But if you do want to disable these, I'll show you how to do it. Basically, there's a lot of ways of disabling a lot of these features. There's the less aggressive ways and the more aggressive ways. I'll show you both of them. So first off, let's go to the start and the settings pane here. This is where we're going to set off and go through each of these tabs. So first off, we're going to go to the system tab here. Inside here you can have a bunch of features. The first feature we want to go to is notification and actions, and as you can see here, there's a bunch of them inside here that you can disable. So I'm going to be disabling these on this system here. Now you can either turn it off by doing it like this, but that leaves a couple of them set on. So I'm going to go to settings, turn off, and also take the ticks out of these and then turn off here. And that should disable the notifications and actions on there. Now you can leave some of these on if you wish, but you can see here it's opting into some of their experience programs here, and I don't want to do that. Next up, we've got the focus assist. Again, you can leave this feature off, and you can see there's a couple of little features that are still added on with the little radio buttons that slide to the right and the left. I'm going to turn these off because I don't want to opt into this sort of program, so I'm going to just turn these off here. Now of course the choice is yours whether you want to disable all the ones I'm disabling. You can choose to leave some of these on if you wish, but I'm going to be turning these off just as I'm doing right here, because I have no use for these and I don't use these on a regular basis. And the good thing is, if I want to go back here and enable this feature, I can do and turn this on whenever I need to. Next up, we're going to go to power and sleep. Once we're in the power and sleep, go over to the additional power settings here, and over here we're going to make sure that we show additional plans, and I'm going to put this on high performance. This just gives you a little bit more better performance, and I'm just going to leave that in here. Now you can go into here and make other changes to your display to turn it off, or to turn off the hard drive and all this sort of stuff. If you're on a laptop, you may want to make tweaks inside here, but this is a desktop PC and that's as far as I need to take this one. So I'm going to back out of here. Next up, we've got storage. This is a storage sense. You can turn this on for yourself if you wish. If you wish it to deal with any sort of junk files, temporary files, or any of that stuff, you can configure it here. You've seen me use this before. There is the optimization drives down here as well, and this will allow you to clean this up. Now some people turn this off and run it whenever they need to run it, but I'm just going to leave that enabled at all times. But you can turn it off and run scans once a month or once every 2 months if you wish. Next up is tablet mode. I'm going to turn it off because I'm not using tablet mode. Then we're going to go up to multitasking here. I'm going to turn all this feature off, and most of these features, as you'll get the general idea, is going to be to turn it off. Now why Microsoft add a lot of this stuff in here, I don't know, but I'm basically going to turn it off here. I'm just going to leave this as is and move on to the next section. And here we got the shared experiences, and again you can manage your accounts here. I'm just going to turn this off because I have no need for it, but if you want to leave it on you can do. It's entirely up to you. I'm just going to turn this off. Just make sure you read all the blurb and just make sure that it's exactly what you need to do before you disable it, okay? But you can always turn it back on. Now this new clipboard feature allows you to save multiple items to a clipboard and use it later on if you wish. I'm going to leave that off, but if you want to have it on, you can do. It can be quite useful if you use that feature a fair bit. I'm going to leave off the remote desktop. I have no use for that. And also we're going to go back to the settings pane here and go into apps. Now you can disable and remove a lot of these apps if you wish, and of course some of them are embedded into Windows itself, and you will need to remove them. You can see some of these are grayed out here and you won't be able to uninstall them, and if you want to do that you would have to use something like a de-bloating tool or something like that to remove those from there. I'll show you that a little bit later on. That's a little bit more aggressive, but we're just going to keep it nice and simple here, where we can uninstall these manually from this location. And again, you can choose whatever you want to remove here. Don't go and remove everything if you use some of this stuff, because some of this stuff is quite useful, but if you don't use a lot of it, then you can remove it, okay? But some of them will be grayed out, some will allow you to remove them, okay? I'm not going to bore you with going through every single one of these because it will take forever, but you can make the choices for yourself. Now, your phone, as you can see here, if you want to remove this, you can remove this via PowerShell, and you can also remove it via one of these apps, which I'll show you a little bit later on here. Doesn't matter whether you terminate here, it won't let you uninstall. It's not going to let you remove apps like this, and if you do want to remove these, I'll show you a bit later on in a video. Just run through here and remove all of the apps and features that you're not going to be using and you don't want. If you don't want OneDrive, you can remove this from the system as well. Pretty straightforward and easy to do. If you do want to keep OneDrive, then obviously leave it on there. But all of these methods will allow you to reinstall these and get them back working without being too aggressive with it. Now, I will show you some other aggressive ones as well. You can see here Maps is also not allowing us to uninstall. It's grayed out here, but if you do wish to remove these, you can do. They're very straightforward and easy to do. If you want to remove the options here for default apps and change them, you can do. You can change all these to whatever you want and remove maps from the system if you don't use it. Offline maps, you can delete all the maps here and also turn these features off. Update maps, I have no use for them, so if you don't want them, you can delete all the maps here and push delete. If you want to keep them on there, then keep them on there. It's entirely up to you. Next up, we've got apps for website, and you can turn these off. You can see here there's maps here. If you're using this stuff, then leave it on, but I don't want to use it, so I'm going to turn it off. Video playback, I'm just going to leave that as is. And of course, startup here, we've got apps here for startup, which you can see here, Windows security notifications. You can turn those off as well. If you want to be notified with those security notifications, leave that feature on. Next up, we're going to go for the search here. I'm just going to quickly show you here. You can set this up as you wish. Gives you full customization of this search feature here. Cloud search, if you want to use cloud search, leave that feature enabled. If you have got no use for it, then turn it off. You can also turn the search off if you wish, or you can put it on to block a lot of the adult content on there if you wish to as well. Also, you can see here we've got the searching for Windows. If you don't use this feature, you can disable them and you can take off the search index, but I'm going to leave it on classic. There's also enhanced there if you want to leave that on, but it does take a lot more resources on the system. Next up, we're going to move on to, let's see here, Cortana. Let's go into Cortana. And again, if you use Cortana, some people do, leave it well alone, don't touch it. But if you don't want to use it and you don't use it, you can turn it all off. As you can see here, I'm just going to disable all this stuff. Now, we're not even using the group policy editor or any of that stuff. If you want to do that, you can do, but I'm just going to turn it off here. But they're more advanced features, and if you want to see some of those videos, then let me know in the comments section below. But basically, we're just keeping to the Windows settings here. For most people are going to be using these sort of settings on a daily basis, so you can enable them and disable them. Let's go back into privacy now, and again, this is probably going to be the biggest one here. We're going to be turning a lot of this stuff off, and this is advertising ID, and this also lets Windows provide locally relevant content. All this stuff I don't want, and also the speech. Now, if you're installing Windows, you can disable a lot of this stuff when you're installing it, but I wanted to show you with it all enabled. As you can see here, we've got send data back. I'm going to put this on basic. That's as low I can go, but I'm just going to turn all of this stuff off first, which is diagnostic data. It allows you to delete the diagnostic data, and of course, if you want to put this on never, you can do. Feedback frequency, make all your changes that you want to do here. You can see how invasive Windows 10 has become. It's like a data collecting machine. It just basically wants to collect every bit of data from you as it can and send it all back to Microsoft. All your activities, history, all this sort of stuff, send it all back to Microsoft. No, we don't want to do that, so we're going to turn all of those off, and we're going to clear our activity history. This is the sort of stuff that really concerns people with the amount of data they're collecting, and basically if you don't like it, then use another operating system like Linux or Mac or wherever it is you want to use other than Windows 10. If you do want to use it, you're going to have to turn all this stuff off. Location, again, some people like to have their location on for weather and stuff like that and other information, but if you don't want it, you can change it and turn it off. Make sure these are all turned off just as I'm showing you here, otherwise some of these will be enabled. Again, default location, you can change this. Also location history, you can clear all that data and remove it out of there. Go onto your camera. If you want to leave your camera enabled, if you use a webcam on a regular basis, you may want to leave that off. I don't use the webcam here, so I'm going to turn this off. But if you do use one, then leave it enabled. And you can also select what type of applications you want to allow your camera to be used on. For instance, Skype and other types of applications that you may want to use your camera for, and then turn all the rest off that you don't use it for. That's another feature that you can do. Of course, that would mean you have to go through here manually and make sure that you do that manually yourself. Microphone is another thing. Don't turn off your microphone because you're going to have trouble getting microphone to work properly. You're going to need to leave that on, but turn it off for all the things that you don't want to use it on. As you can see here, if you don't want it to use it on Microsoft Edge and all the other bits, leave it off. But if you've got it on for the camera, that's fine, because if you're using your webcam, you're going to need to leave that on. If you use Skype calls, you may want to leave it on also, otherwise it won't work. But just by leaving the microphone on, that should solve a lot of your problems here. So don't turn that feature off if you want to use your microphone. Voice activation, again, you can turn all this sort of stuff off if you wish. Just turn all this off. And as you can see, you have to turn quite a lot of stuff off in Windows 10, and it's just a bit of a nightmare here to go through here. So notifications, again, I'm going to turn this all off as well. I'm going to change this here, make sure this is off. There we go, and that completely grays it out. Calendar, if you use your calendar and other account information, you can leave all this on. But if you do use, for instance, emails and accounts, built-in Windows emails and also Microsoft content and stuff like that, you will need to leave some of this stuff on. But I don't use any of that stuff. I use an offline account, so I don't use that stuff. So I'm turning it all off. Again, contacts, if you use all this sort of content and you have a lot of contacts in here, you're going to need to leave that on, and obviously select which ones you want to select it to use it on. But I turn all this off because I don't keep all that stuff on this computer. And moving through here, calendar's the same thing. As you can see, it's getting a bit repetitive because we have to go through this whole procedure. And when it rolls out a lovely update for you, again, you'll have to probably go through and make all these changes once again. And this is the thing that sort of really gets my back up with Microsoft. It's just basically having to go through this procedure all the time. There should be a setting which doesn't allow this to go back to the default settings. But with the way they update nowadays, this is what's going to happen, and it's just a bit of a time consuming. So I'm going to remove the app from the taskbar there. I don't need the Mail app. I don't use that. I use Outlook. And again, you can go through here and make some changes as well. And these are just some of the basic changes that most people are going to make for their setup. And you can see we're having to disable a lot of these settings here. And years ago it was just one little tab you'd have to do, but now you're doing two of them. As you can see here, there's a bunch of other things they've added in which they want to collect data for. I think it's all marketing and stuff like that. You know, they want to know your patterns, your shopping patterns, and what you're doing online, so they can actually bombard you with loads more stuff. So we're just going to turn this off. So just read through here and make sure you read all the stuff that it's doing here, and it will tell you choose the apps that can communicate with unpaired devices. Again, I'm just going to turn that off for now. And there's a heap of them inside here, as you can see. So just go through this and turn what you want off. Okay, moving on to background apps. As you can see here, there's a load of background apps here. Now you can just use this button up the top and it turns them all off, but of course Microsoft being Microsoft, if you need to leave one of these on, you have to do them all one by one, which is a bit more of a headache as well. So if you need Windows security on, leave Windows security on and maybe weather, and then you'll have to manually turn each of these off one by one, and that's what you're going to have to do. But I don't need any of this stuff running, so I'm going to just turn the lot off. But if you do need some apps running, then you're going to need to leave this on, and then you're going to need to manually go through here one by one, turning off which ones you don't want and leave the ones on that you do want to run. And this is you know, something that's could have been done a little bit better by Microsoft because of the amount of time that it's going to take to configure this system here. So just go through this and turn off what you don't want running. And if you do want to leave some of these on, then this is what you will have to do. Obviously, I will just turn all of this off myself by going up the top. I'm just showing you an example here of what you would have to do if you want to leave one or two of these on. Okay, but I'm just going to turn all of these off. Let's go on to the app diagnostic here, and again, if you want to leave this on, you can do. It's entirely up to you, but basically I'm just going to turn this all off. I don't want this all on. So let's go into automatic file download, and again you can see this one has been grayed out here, and you can see that's not enabled there. So moving on to documents, again allow access to document libraries on your device. You can make changes to this if you wish. Again, if you want to turn this off, you can do. It's entirely up to you, but go through here and enable which you want to enable one by one, or you can just turn it all off. It's entirely up to you by just hitting this and then hit change. Whatever your choice is, you choose it, and basically either do it completely off or one at a time. Same thing, pictures all off, or you can leave what you want on. Videos, same thing. I'm just going to turn this off. And this one, there we go. So that's what I've got for my privacy, and I've turned all those off, pretty much every bit of it, as you can see there. And again, it's entirely up to you what you want to select for yours, but again, it just takes a bit of time to get this set up to how you like it. So we've covered all the privacy area. Let's move on to the next section, and we'll go into phone here, and you'll see here this is your phone settings. You can disable all that feature. I'll show you that a little bit later on. Gaming, again, you can turn off this feature if you have no use for it, but if you do use it, then leave it on. But if you have no use for it, then disable all this stuff. Okay, like all the record and all that sort of stuff, you can turn this on. Game mode here you can leave on. Some people say they get improved frames per second by leaving that on, so if you do want to leave that on, you can do, but if you don't want to turn it off, then turn it off. It's entirely up to you. So let's move on to the next section, update and security. This has got some latest features added to here. For Windows 10 home users, you can pause it now and stuff like that. So that's nice. They've added that feature in for Windows 10 home users. Windows 10 Pro users get still plenty of options available. Change your active hours. This is when you want it to update. You can put your hours in here for when you want it to be active and update. So if you're not that busy in the morning, you can set it for the morning. If you're not that busy in the evening, you can set it for the evening. And if you leave your PC on 24/7, do it when you go to bed, and of course when you wake up, you'll probably end up with a blue screen of death, and you'll have to reinstall Windows, knowing the Windows updates how they work. Let's move on to the next bit. You can see here we've paused that bit there, and just basically pause or stop that. That's now starting to update, which I didn't want it to do. And we're moving into here again. You can enable some of this stuff if you want to enable this. Set this up how you want it. Again, some people are going to pause, some people are not going to pause it. Again, you can do it the way you want to do it. Okay. Also allow downloads from other PCs on your home network. That's fine. That's if you've got all Windows 10 PCs on your network. It will start to take downloads from those rather than downloading them off the internet. You set that up if you wish, turn it off if you don't want it. And that's pretty much the update section here. Let's move on to another section. So I'm just going to leave that as is right now. So let's move on to delivery and optimization, and basically you can set this as you wish. Windows security, again this is for your Windows Defender. If you're going to be using the built-in Windows Defender, then obviously you can make small changes to this area if you wish. I don't use Windows Defender, but if you do want to use it, then obviously you can come in here and make some changes. They've added some extra features. You've got ransomware protection inside here, and you've also got managed settings, which allow you to manage your settings. Some people are paranoid and they don't want it to do cloud delivered protection. They also don't want to automatically sample submissions to Microsoft because they think that's collecting data, so they may want to turn that feature off as well. It's entirely up to you. I've seen people leaving these features off. Again, automatic sample submission, if you're that paranoid and you want to turn it off, you can do. If you use the Windows security, you can see tamper protection. This is another one that may use a bit of resources, and again controlled folder access here. Bunch of features in here, that's another video altogether, but if you are going to be using that, then it's entirely up to you. That's all suggestive stuff, whether you want to enable or disable some of those features. I would personally leave them all enabled if you are using Windows Defender. Same thing for the firewall, but if you're going to be using this smart screen stuff, I would leave all this as is. I wouldn't disable any of that stuff because it's protecting you. But if you choose to use another alternative protection, say for instance Kaspersky or Bitdefender or something like that over this, then you can disable a lot of that stuff, and I'll show you how to do that a little bit later on. But again, Kaspersky do offer a free antivirus, which I think is a really awesome bit of kit for free, and it will keep your system nice and secure and safe from malware, ransomware, and all that other stuff. So if you want to use Windows alternative, you can use something like Kaspersky or Bitdefender or any of the other free antiviruses that are out there. You can also use a free firewall, which is like Zone Alarm, if you want something a little bit more advanced, a little bit more protective, and it also has ransomware protection in there as well. So it's entirely up to you which way you go about it. If you want to use this method, then use it. Obviously, if you want to use the Windows built-in, then use that one as well. But again, if you want to turn some of this stuff off, it's at your own peril. I would personally leave some of that stuff on. I wouldn't bother turning it off because it's keeping you safe. So let's move on to the next section here, which is your personalization. And again, some of this is going to be very suggestive. You can choose whatever you like here to have all your own wallpapers. You can do your colors. Transparency is one of the colors that you may want to turn off. Transparency effects, this is that little transparency you've been added onto your logon screen, and also your sidebar here that can take up some resources, so if you want to turn that feature off, you can do. And also moving on down to some other areas here, themes, this is just your themes here, your fonts. Again, people go over the top and start deleting all the fonts and stuff. I wouldn't go that crazy. You're not going to get that much speed improvement by doing all that sort of stuff. This is mainly for optimizing, like for the anti-spyware and bloatware that's built into Windows 10. This is where you can change your command prompt over PowerShell. If you want to use that, you can just use that little toggle switch there. And again, you can go through here and turn off the people feature. If you're not using people, then turn it on or off. I don't use it at all, but some people may use it, so leave that enabled. And we'll move on to the next section. So let's go into services here, type services in the search box and open up the services pane, and this will give you access to your services. Now I'm not going to spend a whole heap of time going through this because it's very time consuming, and it's probably warrants its own video, but I have made videos on this before, so I don't want to bore you to tears doing the same thing over and over again. But you can see here I've already disabled a bunch of this stuff inside here in services, so just take a look at the services area, and the ones I've been disabling are your data collection and also user experience and all that sort of services. Nothing too crazy, just disabled some of the Xbox stuff I'm not using, Cortana data collection and user data storage and user data access, some other bits and pieces inside here, but you can see them all listed there. You can also disable whatever you want here. distribution, link tracking, and also you can see here user experience virtualization, remote desktop. I don't use that. And also you can see this one here. This is for your distribute link tracking client. I've also disabled that. You may need to stop the service. I've already stopped it, but you can see a bunch of other stuff here. Just disable whatever you want, or you can copy some of these ones here if you want to disable these. And then that's pretty much it for the services. If you want to get a bit more aggressive with it, I'll show you what you can do a little bit later on. But again, you can go through here with a fine-tooth comb if you wish, and pick out stuff that you don't want to have running. And some of these are so small and minuscule, like touch keyboard and handwriting panel service. If you don't use it and you're on a desktop, you can disable things like that, like fax. Things like that you can disable as well. And if you don't have a printer, print spooler and stuff like that. But if you do have a printer, then don't disable it, otherwise you won't be able to print. So things like that, just go through here and disable some of the stuff you don't want. But this is really sort of the stuff I've showed you up the top is the main stuff that you need to be sort of disabling for data collection and stuff like that. But things like fax, if you don't want to use it and you don't have a fax system, then just don't have it running and disable it. It's as simple as that. So move on to something else here. I just wanted to show you some of the services area there that I've disabled in this video. But again, if you need some help, pop on our Discord server. Pretty sure I'll be able to help you out over there. So let's go into the section here and we'll disable some more stuff here. So what we're going to do here is go into our settings, and then what we're going to do is go into system and then system information here. Once we get into system information, we're going to go to advanced here, go into the advanced system settings and into the system properties. Once we're inside here, you can make some more changes. Now what we're going to start off with the performance tab here. Now again, this is very suggestive. If you like it the way it looks, then leave it well alone. You're not going to get night and day light speed differences by making changes here. But if you're on a really old system, making changes in here used to be a real plus side because it would take a lot of the graphics settings down. So depending on what system you got, if you've got a modern day system with a 1080 Ti or 1080, it's not going to make much difference, to be honest with you. But I'll just show you some of the settings you can put in here for the very minimalistic sort of settings that keeps Windows 10 looking nice, but also takes away some of the more system resource hog type of settings, okay, inside here. But again, these are going to be all very suggestive, so don't go ahead and do any of this stuff if you don't need to. If you've got a modern day system with a high-end GPU and also CPU, it's not going to benefit you vast amounts. Okay, this is just for sort of people using older systems. But I would leave normally something like this selected here. You can make some of the other changes that you wish. Some people even disable some of the shadowing and stuff like that. Don't touch the smooth edges on the screen fonts because they'll go all blurry and they will look horrible. So leave that enabled. And then you can go into advanced here, make sure you're on programs. If it's on background services, change it to programs and move on to change and leave that as automatic virtual memory settings. I've seen a lot of people trying to tweak virtual memory. There's no point, just leave it as it is, let Windows deal with it. It does a pretty good job at dealing with that sort of stuff. And we've done all that sort of settings here. Now you may want to set up your system restore, turn off remote desktop here. You can disable all this sort of stuff and also set in your system restore if you want to do that as well. Go into and create a system restore point. You know how to do that sort of stuff. It's pretty basic. But going into startup and recovery here, again, you may want to turn off automatically restart. If you're trying to get a glimpse of that blue screen and find out what it actually says, then take that tick out and it will stop it right on the blue screen so you can read it and take a photo of it, and then you can post it on some sort of forum or something like that and get some idea of what's going on with your system. You can make changes here to whatever you want to create here for your dump file, and then you can also, there's one more setting in there that I needed to change, which is the time to display the list of the operating systems. We don't need that because we've only got one OS, so I'm going to take that tick out and click OK here and click OK, and it will ask for a restart, but I'll do that a little bit later on. But I will restart once I'm off camera here, and that should be that. Now this next part is for people that really want to disable a lot of features that are hidden, buried deep into the OS, and this is a little bit more aggressive. So this is not for the average Joe who wants just to basically disable stuff in the settings menu like I've just showed you. This is for people that want to get down and dirty and use programs and disable a lot of these services, and also a lot of the hidden tracking software that's built into Windows 10 and stuff like that. And these programs will allow you to do that, and I'll show you how to quickly do this in case you want to do it. But if you're happy with what you've got right now, then leave it well alone. But some people want to go that little bit further and use programs like this to make changes to their settings, and you can do. But again, be warned that these are making some serious changes and you may not like it. And sometimes it deletes files and you might not be able to revert back that easily. You can see here there's a couple of areas here. Privacy, it also makes changes to the host file and adds a bunch of stuff in there to block, but you can see here it's proper deep with the local group policy. It will add a load of stuff inside there as well. If you've got Windows 10 Home, it's obviously not going to do that because you don't have a group policy editor in there. You can see here it wants to disable certain services, and there's some little bubbles on here that tells you exactly what this program is doing. Again, you would use this at your own risk because you are making some much more serious changes to the OS. Okay, and again, you've got blocker here. This will allow you to block a lot of stuff and also add extras in, which is block OneDrive and other bits and pieces on here. Again, this is for the paranoid Pete of the world that likes to basically uninstall and delete everything, and basically that's what they're going to be doing here. You can see it lets you delete programs and things like that, but be very careful when you're using stuff like this. If you're happy with just making minor changes where you can revert back a little bit later on, then you can. But if you want to delete stuff, you can just click the delete and it will remove that. Okay, but I don't want to be in a comment section below, how do I put that back? Because obviously sometimes if it's gone, it's gone and you're going to have to reinstall. So just bear that in mind when you're doing stuff like this. Some programs are using sort of script technology which actually rips a lot of the stuff out, like de-bloating and things like that, and it's very hard to revert some of those things once you've made changes to them. So this is for the more aggressive type person, the paranoid person that likes to completely remove just about everything from there. You should see something like this once you've done all this, and you should see the little tabs slide into the left there saying off, and that means everything here. But you will need to go back in here and enable your microphone, otherwise your microphone won't work. And this is the problem with some of these programs. They're super aggressive, and you've just got to be very, very careful. Okay, now also you can block Windows updates here as well if you want to do that, and there's some other bits and pieces. But again, if you want to remove programs, something like this, you can just delete or delete all. I would advise you just to leave this well alone personally if you're happy with some of the settings that I showed you a little bit earlier on. So that's basically how you can optimize Windows 10 and turn off a lot of the bloatware and a lot of the spying stuff that you don't want to have on your Microsoft Windows 10 operating system. Now, of course, use the second part of the video, which is those applications, third-party apps, with a bit of caution. If you don't want to do that part, then skip that part and leave it out. If you're not familiar with that sort of stuff, then leave it well alone. Again, always make backups of all your data, and also make a system restore point before you do anything like that, so you can always revert back. Okay, other than that, I think that's going to be about it. Now, what would you see differences in your Windows 10? Yes, it will be slightly faster, but it's going to be negligible. It's not going to be super fast. It's just going to turn off a lot of the background apps that you don't use and a lot of the bloatware. Anyway, that's about it. My name has been Brian from briteccomputers.co.uk. Bye for now. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the big red subscribe button on my YouTube channel and hit the bell notification button next to that to be notified when we upload new videos.